It was supposed to be temporary. That's what he said when he showed up at my door with 2 duffel bags and that crooked half smile I hadn't seen in 3 years. Just a couple weeks, he'd promised, standing on my porch like we hadn't spent a whole college semester flirting and pretending it meant nothing. Liam was my best friend once, the kind of guy who showed up with tacos at 2 a.m., who talked me off more than a few emotional ledges, who never said the word love but made me feel it anyway. And then he moved across the country for work, and I let myself believe that was the end of us. Now, here he was, back in my life, asking for a couch and promising not to get in the way. I wanted to say no, because I knew what would happen if I let him stay, but I also knew I wouldn't. "Guest room's clean," I said instead. "You remember where it is." He grinned. "Still keeping it like a hotel suite, huh?" "I like tidy," I muttered, closing the door behind him. What I didn't say was, I still sleep with the door open. I still make enough coffee for 2. I still check your Instagram when I can't sleep. The first night was fine. Normal. We had beers, caught up like old friends do, talked about his new job, my horrible dating life, mutual friends we quietly stopped texting. He laughed the same way he used to. Deep and unfiltered, like it snuck up on him. I didn't sleep at all. The second night, I caught him in the kitchen at midnight wearing nothing but a towel, his hair still wet from the shower. I tried to look away, I swear, but he leaned against the counter like he knew I wouldn't. "You still put cinnamon in your coffee?" he asked, like nothing was weird. "Yeah," I said. "Old habits." He smiled. "Some of those are good." That was the moment I should have drawn a line. Told him the guest room was where he belonged, that I wasn't that guy anymore. The one who waited for scraps of affection like a dog under the dinner table, but I didn't. It wasn't until the 4th night that things shifted. We were watching some dumb sci-fi show he liked, sprawled out on the couch like old times. At some point, my feet ended up in his lap. It wasn't on purpose. Not really. He didn't move them. Instead, he rested his hand casually over my ankle. Warm. Familiar. Too familiar. I should have said something. Instead, I asked, "Do you ever think about college?" His thumb moved absent-mindedly against my skin. "Yeah, sometimes. What do you think about?" He looked at me then, really looked at me, like the question mattered. "You," he said. I didn't breathe for a few seconds, just stared at him, waiting for the punchline. But it didn't come. Just the weight of his stare. Just his fingers still resting on my ankle. That night, he didn't go to the guest room. He followed me upstairs instead. He didn't say anything when I walked up the stairs, just followed, quiet and steady, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. I paused at my bedroom door, hand on the knob, heartbeat thudding way too loud in my ears. "You good?" I asked without turning around. "Yeah," he said softly behind me. "I just didn't feel like sleeping alone tonight." I opened the door and stepped aside. He brushed past me and went straight to the bed like he belonged there. No hesitation, no questions, and still, no explanation. He pulled back the covers like he'd done it 1,000 times before, then lay down and looked at me expectantly. So I shut the door, clicked the lock. I climbed into bed next to him without a word. It wasn't like we touched, not right away. There was still a sliver of space between us, but it felt like it crackled with every breath. "You remember that night junior year?" Liam asked into the dark, voice barely more than a whisper. "There were a lot of nights junior year," I said. "The one where we got stuck in that storm coming back from that stupid house party." I smiled faintly in the dark. "Yeah, we had to crash in the back of your car. You fell asleep with your head on my shoulder." "You let me," I said, even though I was soaked and freezing. "You were shivering so hard," he laughed softly. "I thought your teeth were gonna break." I didn't want to move, I admitted. I think I stayed awake most of that night. Just didn't want to lose the moment. There was a pause. "You didn't lose it," he said. When he reached for me, it wasn't dramatic. His fingers just found mine under the blanket and curled in. Warm. Solid. Familiar in a way that hurt. I turned on my side to face him, and he shifted closer. His face was inches from mine. I could feel his breath when he whispered, "I used to wish you'd kiss me." I blinked. Liam, I know, he murmured. I was an idiot. You gave me so many chances, and I was scared. Scared I'd mess it up. Scared it would mean something. It did mean something, I said, my voice catching in my throat. I know, I just didn't know how to be brave back then. And before I could stop myself, I leaned in, pressed my forehead against his. Are you brave now? I asked. His lips were on mine before he answered. There was no rush. Just the slow press of lips, the careful drag of fingers over skin, like we were rewriting every moment we ever let slip away. His hand moved to my jaw, thumb brushing the edge of my cheek, and I felt something in me unravel, something old and scared and tired finally letting go. We didn't sleep much that night. It wasn't just the kissing. It was the silence after, the way his arm found my waist and stayed there. The way his breathing evened out beside me like this was where he'd always belonged. In the morning, sunlight slanting through the blinds, I opened my eyes to find him watching me. Don't freak out, he said, grinning. I'm not, I replied, voice still thick with sleep. You always do this cute nose wrinkle thing when you're waking up. I rolled my eyes. You've been living here 5 days and you're already doing a full thesis on my sleep habits? Not your sleep habits, he said. Just you. I didn't have a response, so I just reached for him again. By noon, he had moved his duffel bags from the guest room into mine. I expected things to be weird after that night. Maybe some awkward silence, a clumsy about last night conversation while we pretended it didn't happen. But Liam was just there, as usual. Only now he was also shirtless in my kitchen on Saturday morning, making coffee like he owned the place. Yours is on the counter, he said, not even looking up. Cinnamon, extra oat milk. I remember. I rubbed sleep from my eyes and tried to ignore how good his back looked in the soft morning light. You really moved your stuff in here. He finally turned, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. You said I could? I didn't, but I didn't argue either. We fell into a new rhythm almost instantly. He'd go out to job interviews or meetings or whatever vague networking thing he was doing with his life. And I'd work from home, half distracted, half aware of when I'd hear his key in the door again. At night, we shared the bed like we'd always meant to. Sometimes we didn't talk about anything. Sometimes we stayed up until 2 a.m., whispering under the covers, his hand tracing lazy circles on my chest like it was just something he did now. And maybe it was. But I didn't ask what we were. I didn't want to break the spell. Until the day I came home and found another guy sitting on my couch. Hey, the guy said casually, standing to shake my hand. You must be? Yeah, I said slowly. And you are? Liam looked up from the kitchen, face unreadable. This is Tyler, we were just catching up. Tyler. I knew that name. One of those guys from Liam's grad program. The one with perfect hair and a gym membership he loved to mention. I tried to keep my face neutral. Cool. You guys want anything? Nah, Liam said, way too fast. We're good. I disappeared into my room. Not because I was upset. Not yet. But because I didn't trust myself not to ask something I couldn't take back. That night, Liam came in late. I was already in bed, pretending to scroll on my phone. Hey, he said softly, sitting down at the edge of the mattress. Hey, I replied without looking up. He waited a beat, then added, Tyler was just stopping by. Nothing happened. I didn't ask, but I figured you might be wondering. I finally set my phone down. Were you trying to make me wonder? His jaw tensed for a second. No, I thought we were good. We are, I said. But that doesn't mean I know what we're doing. He turned to face me fully now. You want to define it? I don't know, I admitted. Do you? Liam exhaled slowly, eyes scanning my face like he was searching for something. I know that sleeping in your bed feels more like home than anywhere else I've been in the last 3 years. I blinked. I know I don't want to go back to sleeping alone. Or to waking up and not seeing you there. And Tyler? He's a friend, Liam said simply. That's all. I was with you before he showed up. I came back here for you. I swallowed hard. Why didn't you say that before? He smiled a little. I didn't think I had to. You didn't, I said, but I'm glad you did. He crawled into bed beside me, pulling the covers over both of us like nothing had changed. And in a weird way, nothing had. But the air felt clearer now, like we'd crossed some invisible line we'd been tiptoeing around for years. He pressed his forehead to mine and whispered, "This okay?" "Yeah," I said. "More than okay." Things settled after that into something that felt suspiciously like a relationship, even if neither of us used the word. We cooked together, went on grocery runs, watched bad reality shows with his feet in my lap. He started leaving post-it notes on the fridge with dumb jokes or reminders like, "You're out of oat milk, you savage." I started waking up 5 minutes earlier just to watch him sleep. We never said we were dating, but it felt like we were building something. Quietly. Carefully. Then one night, out of nowhere, he said, "I have an interview in New York." I was brushing my teeth. I stopped mid-rinse and stared at him in the mirror. "For what?" "Architecture firm. Big one." "Oh. It's not like I got the job," he added quickly. "They just want to meet." I nodded, spat into the sink, tried to swallow the lump that had formed in my throat. "That's good." He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You don't sound thrilled." "I am," I said, maybe too fast. "It's just, far." "Yeah, that was the end of it, until it wasn't." He left 2 days later, a small overnight bag slung over his shoulder, promising he'd be back by the weekend. He kissed me before he left, on the forehead. It felt like goodbye. I tried not to spiral, I really did. But the first night without him in my bed was awful. I couldn't sleep. The apartment felt too big, too quiet. His hoodie still hung on the back of the kitchen chair, and I found myself walking past it just to smell him. I didn't text him. I didn't want to be that guy. The clingy one. The one who needs confirmation. But on the third night, I broke. "You still in NYC?" He replied within minutes. "Yeah." "Interview went okay. Call you tomorrow? You okay?" I stared at the screen. Typed, deleted, typed again. "Miss you." "That's all." He didn't reply right away. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I started convincing myself I'd pushed too hard. That I'd misread everything between us. That the bed sharing and late night kisses were just temporary comfort. Then my phone buzzed. "Just got out of dinner with the firm. Been thinking about you all night. I miss you too." The next morning, he was home. I found him asleep on the couch, head tilted back, one arm draped over his eyes. His bag was still by the door. He'd come straight from the airport. When I sat beside him, he stirred, opened one eye, smiled. "Couldn't stay away," he mumbled. "You got the job, didn't you?" He nodded slowly. "They want me to start in a month." My chest tightened. "So that's it then?" "Not unless you want it to be." I looked at him, really looked at him. His messy hair, that stupid soft smile, the way he always managed to look like home. "What does that mean?" "It means I don't care where the job is. I care where you are." I didn't say anything, just leaned in and kissed him, because that's all I could do. The next week was a quiet war in my head. Liam had made it clear. He wanted to stay, with me, but I could tell he was torn. That job was a big deal, one of those once-in-a-career opportunities, and I didn't want to be the guy who made him choose. But he didn't bring it up again. Not once. Instead, he stayed close, cooking with me, texting me dumb memes while I was at work, stealing my hoodie, and refusing to give it back because it smells like you and it's cold in this damn apartment. At night, we curled into each other like we were trying to hold back time. I kept telling myself it wasn't permanent, that this was still temporary, no matter how good it felt. Until Friday, we were at his friend's birthday thing. Some bar I didn't really like, loud music, expensive drinks, way too many strangers. But Liam wanted me there. "Just for a couple hours," he'd said. "I want you to meet some of my old crew." So I went, held his hand under the table. Let him introduce me to people as my person, which made my stomach twist in a way I didn't hate. Then it happened. His friend Sam, drunk, loud, the kind of guy who calls everyone bro, slapped him on the back and said, "Man, can't believe you're giving up that NYC gig. Wild." I blinked. "Wait, what?" Liam froze. Sam just grinned. "What? He didn't tell you?" "He turned it down. Said he had reasons." I looked at Liam, who suddenly couldn't meet my eyes. "You turned it down?" He nodded, slowly. "Yeah, I was gonna tell you this weekend." "Why?" I asked, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. "Because," he said, finally looking at me. "I'm tired of starting over. Every city, every job, it's all just noise. You're the only thing that's ever felt real." I didn't know what to say. So I kissed him, right there in that too loud bar, with strangers watching and music thumping. I kissed him like it was the first time all over again. Back home, we didn't talk much, just stripped out of our clothes and climbed into bed like we'd done 100 times before. Only this time there was nothing unspoken, no guessing games. This was it. He pressed his forehead against mine and whispered, "You're worth more than any job." I wanted to argue, to say he shouldn't have to choose. But instead, I just pulled him closer. "I'm glad you did." We stayed that way, wrapped up in each other, until sleep came. For the first time in years, I wasn't scared of what came next. After that night, everything shifted, but not in the way I expected. There wasn't some grand declaration or Instagram official moment. No one asked, "What are we?" because we already knew. We were waking up together every morning, making coffee, brushing our teeth shoulder to shoulder. We were splitting groceries and binge-watching garbage TV on weeknights, and folding laundry in a silence that felt full instead of empty. We were just us. One night, about a week later, I found Liam on the balcony, barefoot, hoodie pulled over his head, cigarette burning slowly between his fingers. He hadn't smoked in years. I stepped outside, rubbing my arms against the chill. "You okay?" He didn't answer right away, just stared out at the city, lights blinking in the distance like stars that got stuck. "I keep thinking I'll wake up," he finally said. "And this, us, won't be real." I walked over and took the cigarette from his fingers, crushed it out on the edge of the ashtray. "It's real," I said, brushing a thumb over his knuckles. "You're here. I'm here." We made it through the part where we didn't say what we felt. He smiled, tired and soft. "Yeah, but what comes next?" I shrugged. "Whatever we want. You find a job here, or go back to freelancing. We make dinner, argue over what to watch, maybe fight about laundry once in a while." "Sounds thrilling," he joked. I leaned against him. "I'm not promising fireworks, but I can promise peace, and maybe a little chaos." He slipped an arm around me. "I'll take it." We stood there for a long time, listening to the buzz of traffic and distant laughter echoing from some apartment down the street. The night didn't feel cold anymore. Later, in bed, with his head on my chest and his fingers tracing slow lines on my stomach, he said, "You ever think about what would have happened if I never called you that night?" "All the time." "And? I'd probably still be single. Bitter. Definitely still using cinnamon oat milk, though," he snorted. "And I'd probably be miserable in some overpriced shoebox apartment in Manhattan, wondering why I couldn't feel anything anymore." "Guess we're both lucky then." He nodded, his voice muffled against my skin. "Luckier than we know." Spring hit the city like a switch flipped. The streets thawed, trees blinked awake, and our apartment somehow felt brighter. Maybe from the sunlight through the windows. Maybe from the way we'd started leaving our bedroom door open like we had nothing to hide anymore. By then, Liam had picked up some freelance design gigs, renovation concepts, a museum project, even a few home remodels. It wasn't New York, but it was enough. Sometimes he worked at the kitchen table, hoodie half off, earbuds in, mumbling to himself while I cooked dinner, and tried not to watch him like a schoolboy with a crush. One night after dinner, I found him digging through the closet. "What are you doing?" I asked, still drying my hands on a towel. He pulled out an old shoebox, Looking for this, I recognized it immediately. College keepsakes. Photos. Ticket stubs. Dumb little souvenirs from a time when we thought being hungover at a campus diner was the height of adulthood. He sat cross-legged on the floor and opened the lid. "Remember this?" he asked, holding up a blurry Polaroid of us on the roof of our old dorm, arms slung over each other, grinning like idiots. "Yeah, I think we'd just gotten caught sneaking beer past the RA. And you lied and said it was root beer," I laughed. "And you backed me up even though you had an actual bottle opener in your back pocket." He held up another photo. This one quieter, us at some party, him leaning against the wall, me beside him with my head tipped slightly toward his shoulder. We weren't looking at the camera, just at each other. "I've kept this one for years," he said, voice barely above a whisper. I sat beside him, the weight of his words settling somewhere in my chest. "Why?" He looked at me, eyes tired in the good way. "Because it was the moment I knew. I just didn't want to deal with it yet. And now? Now I want all of it," he said. "Every quiet Sunday, every late-night argument over which side of the bed is mine. Every time you steal the blanket and pretend you didn't." "I do not." "You do," he laughed, then added, "but I'm not going anywhere. Blanket thief or not." I kissed him. It was easy now, like breathing. Later, in bed, he curled into me and murmured, "I want to build something with you." "Like IKEA furniture?" "No. Dumbass. A life." "Oh." I swallowed. "Yeah, I want that too." His hand slid down to lace fingers with mine. "So let's